if any club could afford it, you are looking at some of the biggest players in the market at the minute. So you're looking at Manchester City as being one of those clubs that can afford transfer fees like that. Some of the bigger clubs in England would also be in that bracket despite COVID. We've seen Manchester United spend quite a lot in this transfer window, over 130 million so far. Other clubs across Europe, you're looking at clubs like Paris Saint-Germain and as an obvious example. So despite the fact that we've seen the pandemic really impact club finances, those at the top have been a better placed to deal with this crisis and can afford still to spend just because of the financial power that they've got. So yeah, obviously it is a lot of money, and the transfer fees have gone up and up and up over the last 2 decades, but Man City are a club that can still afford those transfer fees quite comfortably. There's obviously at the minute with the pandemic, what UEFA have done with financial fair play is to relax it for a couple of years. So what they're going to do is they're going to roll 2 years into one for the reporting period, and you do have a 3-year rolling reporting period anyway. So there is a little bit of flex in that system at the minute. And again, if you look at any business or any market, that there's opportunity to be made in a crisis. And I think that's certainly the case here a little bit with some of the bigger clubs, is that they know that they can afford to do that and kind of take that opportunity where others perhaps can't, because the regulations are there, yes, but they are, we're in a little bit of limbo with those as well. So I think that's of course a factor here as well. But Manchester City have been, okay against those financial regulations over the last 3 or 4 years or so. So they were in a good position to be able to spend if they wanted to. There's only, a couple of clubs that can realistically afford his demands. It's because it's okay, the transfer might be a free transfer because of the state of his contract and his contract's expired, but you've got the wage demands to hit, and a player like that doesn't come cheap. So again, when we're talking about signing a superstar like that, there's only, 1 or 2 clubs that can do that. And the go-to ones at the minute in the market are PSG and Manchester City. So no surprise to see those being mentioned as kind of, in there as a possibility. Speculating slightly, but I think PSG would probably be slight favourites on that one at the minute, primarily because of, City's projected spend on Jack Grealish and potentially Harry Kane as well, and the Messi deal that didn't happen with City a few months ago. So what this comes down to is, La Liga have a regulation that they set what a club can spend on its wages per season against factors such as income, against debt levels, against the kind of overview of the financial state of the club. And obviously COVID's a factor in that, because everyone's seen revenue reduce, and La Liga are now saying, well, we have to factor that in. So your wage spend and the transfer spend that they allow those clubs to set is much lower than it was previously, and Barcelona's has been reduced by about 50%. However, that aside, Barcelona's financial situation is very poor, and it's been mismanaged now for a number of years. This is a situation that was almost waiting to happen, because they've had very high wage bills, very high levels of debt, and eventually, even with them being the global club and the global superstar club that they are, those problems will still catch up with you. Well, there's only really 2 things it would boil down to, and I think the first one is, will La Liga change their stance on the figure that they've set Barcelona based on what they've done in the past? And I think, as I said, it's unlikely that would happen. The other option is you need to then look to renegotiate the deal that you had with Messi that was in place, but that means, based on the numbers that we're looking at, that would be, it was already a 50% pay cut, and you're probably looking at an even bigger reduction on that. Or is he going to play for free? Probably not. It's those kind of arguments. So it can only go one of 2 ways in that one. It's a big rebuilding process, and that takes time. So if you look at the players that they have signed this summer, they've all been on free contracts. Yes, they'll have the wages to pay, but they've probably got to shift 1 or 2 more superstars off that wage bill in the coming years. Antoine Griezmann would be the obvious next kind of person in line to get a big earner off the wage bill. They have to reevaluate that now, and it will be a rebuilding process, which might mean a drop off in performance on the pitch for the next 2 or 3 years while they rebuild that squad. So they will recover, but it will take time to recover. And at the minute, it's quite a dire financial situation that the club find themselves in.